Are you fucking your cousin Andrea?
I watched that two-part live, so you don't have to. That's Shafina, and she's letting us know that her husband has been sleeping with his own blood cousin. So this all actually just happened on New Year's Day. Shafina and her ex-husband TJ have been married since 2002. They divorced in 2023, and then they got remarried in 2025. TJ actually travels for work, and so he had come back home for the holidays, and they're all having a good time. Her adult kids had come over, everybody's drinking, and she had work early in the morning. She is a traveling registered nurse, and so she told him, like, I'm gonna stay up with you guys until midnight and then I'm going to bed. So she does just that, and he comes to bed at about 1:30 in the morning. So she wakes up the next morning and her alarm is going off, but it's not getting her out of bed. His alarm ends up going off, and his phone was in the living room, so it forced her to get out of bed. She gets out of bed and she goes to turn off his alarm, but something inside of her told her to go through his phone. Now, she had already had this like intuitive feeling that something was kind of off, so she kind of just followed it, and she's in the laundry room now. Immediately she went straight to the recently deleted messages. She's scrolling through them. The first conversation she finds kind of looks like he's talking to a sex worker. The sex worker asks him, like, this isn't like law enforcement, right? And he's like, no, I'm just looking for some pussy. And so they're exchanging like rates, and then she sends him an address. She looks up the address at that moment, and it's to a hotel. So immediately Shafina's sitting there like, are you hiring prostitutes? Fast forward, she's still going through the text messages, and she lands on a number that was a 252 number. She's like, who is this? She opens it up, she's scrolling. The first few messages that Shafina sees, TJ is telling the person, oh, another night of no pussy. And so now Shafina's thinking like, oh my God, who is he telling our business to? Like, what's going on? And then she sees the other person respond and say, hey, daddy, can you send me $20? Can you send me $40? TJ's replying back saying, I don't have any extra money. I just paid my bill. Shafina sees a message where TJ is telling the person like, yeah, I don't really like KJ for you. He's a kid to me, blah, 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 blah. So Shafina is thinking like, KJ. His cousin Andrea had told me that she was messing with a guy named KJ or something like that. At this point, she's still not connecting the dots. Then the person replies and says, why can't we just be together? And TJ tells her, oh, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be in the mountains. And she's like, well, I can just come with you and I can just sit in the hotel room while you work. Now, from here, the messages get a little explicit, so be warned. TJ tells the person, oh my God, I'm so sexually frustrated. I need to hit it from the back. And the person replies back and says, no, daddy, I need to see you hit it from the front. I want to watch your eyes roll to the back of your head. So then TJ proceeds to tell the person, send me a picture of your kitty cat. So then the person sends a picture, and then Shafina opens the photo, and it's like a photo from this angle, right? And you can see the person's face. Of course, it's his cousin Andrea's face looking down at sending him a picture of her kitty cat. So at this point, Shafina is mind blown. She's like, what? What does this mean? What is actually going on? She says she literally froze and stood in the laundry room for 30 minutes trying to figure out what was what. The last message she tells us about is TJ telling his cousin, make sure you shave your kitty cat because I want you to write my face. Shafina is in such shock. She can't even get herself together to take screenshots, send pictures of the conversation. She couldn't figure out what TJ had her saved in his phone under. And because she was in just so much turmoil and shock, she couldn't even remember her own phone number to type it in herself. She's supposed to be out of the house by 5:45. It's 5:30. She's running late, and she has a 2-hour drive to get to her job. So she's like, I need to confront him now. She goes to TJ, mind you, he's knocked out drunk. She wakes him up and she's like, hey, are you sleeping with your cousin Andrea? And immediately he gets defensive and he's like, what are you talking about? Are you delusional? Are you having those nightmares again? No, I'm not sleeping with my cousin. He gets up to go use the bathroom, and while he's gone, she goes into his phone again, pulls up the picture, and he walks back in. So Shafina looks at her ex-husband TJ and she's like, well, why is she sending you pictures of her kitty cat, and why are you asking her to ride your face? And he's like getting more and more upset, and he's like, no one's sending me pictures of their kitty cat. I'm not asking her to do anything like that. Look, I'll show you my messages. So he goes to grab his phone, and of course the last thing that was on the phone was her looking at the picture. So he opens it up and he goes, oh dang, it is right there. And so now she's going off. She's like, wow, you're really going to lie to my face? You're really out here sleeping with your cousin? What is actually going on? He just gets his stuff and he leaves. Shafina jumps in the shower. She gets in their car. She starts driving to work. She said it was the worst drive ever. She usually tends to enjoy her little rides to work. They're not that bad for her, but this one was really bad. Once she got to work, there was too many nurses that showed up, and so they asked her like, hey, do you want to do treatment? She was like, yeah, I don't really have to interact with too many people. I just have to put band-aids on them, and it's an 8-hour shift. Let me do do that instead. It took her a while to even get going. She kept going outside to catch some air, to compose herself, and she didn't really want to talk to anybody about it. She was like, this is super embarrassing. I can't believe this is happening to me. And so she was like, let me call my sister-in-law, which is TJ's sister. And so she tells the sister everything. Her name is Tiara, I believe. And Tiara's like, there's no way, you're lying. It can't be possible. She gets off the phone with her. She calls TJ's aunt and she tells her the same thing. And the aunt is like, are you lying? Are you sure? And she's like, look, this is all the information that I know right now. Shafina has a pretty good memory. So she actually remembered the number that he was texting. I tried to call her back, but she was off by one number. And she was just like so heartbroken because she's like, wow, I invite Andrea over all the time. I have her clean for me. I pay her. I take her to, TJ Maxx. I take her to Ross. If she likes something or wants to buy it, I get it for her. I take care of her. She spends time at my house. She sleeps at my house. She was just at their house the weekend after Thanksgiving. And so she's just like, how could you portray me like this? Shafina explains to us that Andrea's mom and TJ's dad are biological brother and sister, and they have the same grandparents and everything. But one thing that Shafina knew was that she was not about to deal with this shame on her own. She was not about to carry this load on her own while they're living in the dark and doing whatever they're doing, and the family gets to live on without having to, live with this. And so she's like, no, everyone's going to know about this. Now, mind you, when she posted it on Facebook, she thought it was just going to go to her little small town. She didn't expect it to blow up on Facebook, make its way over to TikTok. Now, like I said, she wasn't able to get any receipts. She tried to go to T-Mobile and pull up the text messages, but she could only see the timestamps and she could only see who he texted, but she couldn't see the messages. And she was asking people do you guys know how I can get, access to the messages, because they are on the same family plan. Now, she did notice though, right after he left the house around 6 o'clock in the morning, he immediately texted Andrea, probably to tell her hey, Shafina knows about us. Shafina recalls on New Year's Eve how TJ out of nowhere was talking to their daughter, and he said something like, yeah, your cousin Andrea really needs to get her life together. She needs to get a job, da 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 da. And everybody looked at him like, what? Yeah, that's true, but what does that got to do with anything we're doing right now? Shafina's looking back. She's like, you know what? There was signs. There was things that I was kind of noticing. For example, one time Shafina was asleep. She had work in the morning and she's perimenopausal. And so she gets really hot and she needs her bedroom door open. Andrea and TJ were in the living room still drinking. And so she would fall asleep and then all of a sudden she would get uncomfortable and she would look and the door would be closed. So she would tell TJ hey, open the door. He would open it. And then that ended up happening 6 times that night. And when she kept asking TJ why do you keep closing the door, he's like, oh yeah, me and Andrea are still drinking, we don't want to wake you up, da, da, da. She's like, well, if you keep closing the door and making me hot, you're gonna keep waking me up anyway. Thinking back now, they were probably doing a little nasty in her living room in her house, which Andrea later on you'll find out was trying to say that they've never done anything at Shafina's house, but Shafina's like, there's no way that's possible. There's no way you guys were going all the way to the country just to do the do. Shafina does mention that Andrea doesn't have any teeth, doesn't have a job, does have young children, and she just thinks it's so interesting that in the text message thread, TJ was telling her yeah, I'm about to get, my apartment back, I'm about to be on my own again, I need you to really get a job. So Shafina's like, were they actually in love? Was this just not lust? Were you guys actually trying to start a life together? Of course, Shafina is wondering if any of Andrea's young children are TJ's children, because she's like, could that be a possibility? I don't know. She doesn't even want to know if that is a possibility. So after working her 8-hour shift, she ended up driving back home. And when she walked in, TJ was in the kitchen cooking up a whole a feast, right? And she looked at him and she's like, what do you think you're doing? You're acting like nothing happened. I need you to get out of my house right now. She kicked him out. She never let him back in after that. And she threw away all that food that he was cooking. She was like, I don't want anything that your nasty little paws were on. Now, fast forward, obviously is on live on Facebook telling us this story, and all of a sudden you start to hear somebody honking obnoxiously right outside her door. She looks out and then she's like, I'll be right back, you guys. She goes outside and I got my laptop close to my ear trying to hear who's at the door. All of a sudden you see Shafina come back into the frame. Now, we don't really know at this point who she's talking to. We soon find out it's Tiara, TJ's sister, that has pulled up on her, and basically Tiara is asking her do you have to mourn in public? Do you have to tell people all about us and your family? And Shafina's standing 10 toes down. She's like, you or your family is not about to tell me how I get to handle this situation. I don't care. Am I surprised that this has gone as viral as it has? Yes. Do I care? No. She kept saying I'm not going to hurt in private. I'm not going to hurt in the dark. people are going to know about this. And so her and Tiara start going at it back and forth. And Tiara tells her, like, are you thinking about your son who's going to get bullied over this? Shafina turns to her son and she goes, do you care about what your mom is doing as far as outing your daddy and his cousin for, messing around with each other? And you can't really hear what the son says back. But then Tiara is like, did he even know about that? He's looking like he's really surprised right now. And so they're arguing back and forth. So now Tiara is just yelling at Shafina, telling her to get off live, get off live. And Shafina's like, no, I'm not getting off live. And so Tiara looks at her and she goes, well, I'm going to grab the keys to the Durango. And then she's like, you're not about to grab nothing. Then you both see them get off camera and Shafina comes and she grabs the phone and she takes us to, I think, like the entrance of her house. And you can hear like keys rattling. And then all of a sudden you just hear Tiara and Shafina scuffling, like just going at it. And Tiara is, trying to do her big one. She's like the big dog of her family. She thought she was going to come and big dog Shafina. And Shafina was like, absolutely not. She was like, mind you, I didn't even put my all into that. But she was like, it was 100% a scuffle. And she did not leave with those keys. Now, the backstory of the Durango keys was Tiara and her husband had a Durango. They fell behind on the payments. This was before Shafina was even a nurse yet. Shafina and her husband, TJ, took over the payments. When she became a nurse, she paid off the car. Now, mind you, the car is out of commission in Shafina's garage for as long as she can remember. So now she's looking at Tiara like, was this your big opportunity to come take the car back that I paid for? She was going to eventually, put it back on the streets, drive it, take care of it. It has like transmission problems and everything. But she was like, you're not about to big dog me and come and take keys out of my house. No. They got into a scuffle at that point. Later on, Shafina does tell us that they hugged it out immediately. They, went their separate ways, but she obviously was heartbroken that Tiara would come and do such a thing, especially, after her being there for her so many times in the past when TJ was doing so many other messed up stuff. She's like, that really, broke my heart. That live ends and then she comes back on live. I don't know if she did any lives in between, but these are just the ones that are recorded and still up on her Facebook page. And so the second live, she's kind of giving us, the wrap up of what happened on the first live. And then she tells us that her oldest daughter, Shafina's oldest daughter, is like the house manager. She's the family manager. She takes care of everybody. She makes sure everybody's good. And she's like, I trained her really well. She knows how to get information out of people. So apparently her oldest daughter went and called Andrea and tried to get information out of her. And she is doing so good. She plays us the recording and basically like, yo, I'm trying to call my dad. He's not getting back to me. Like, I'm just trying to understand like what's going on. I just want some clarification. I'm not coming at you violently, aggressively. I just want to know the truth. Like, tell me what's actually going on. And so, Andrea's beating around the bush saying, yeah, this is a lot. This is too much. I got to think about my kids. You guys are grown. It's not really going to affect you. And the oldest daughter is like, it's not about that. Like, I need to know what's going on in my family. She's like, did this happen when I was a child? Has this happened just recently? Like, give me the backstory. Essentially, long story short, Andrea lets her know that TJ and Andrea have been sleeping together since 2010, which makes the oldest daughter a very young child at that point. Basically, Andrea tells the oldest daughter that TJ and Andrea got drunk one day. One thing led to another and they slept together, and then they just basically didn't stop for the last almost 15 years sleeping together. Oldest daughter is asking Andrea, like, why didn't you guys stop at some point? Like, you knew you both have children separately. Like, why would you put all of that in like danger? This is when Andrea told her, the oldest daughter, like, we never slept together in your mom's house. But obviously Shafina doesn't believe that. But ultimately, that's the story. That's what happened. Obviously, everything that happens in the dark has to come to light. And now Shafina is like 100% divorcing this man, and she's hoping that her lawyer would be able to, get her hands on the text messages and stuff like that. But outside of that, she's like, look, I'm not doing this for clout. I'm not doing this for money. She's like, I've had money. I've always had money. That's not what this is about. This is my real life. This actually happened to me, and I'm just dealing with it the best I can. She's like, I obviously didn't want to drag the Garners, which is her last name that she got through marriage. She's like, I don't even remember myself as Shafina Wilson. She's like, but you best believe I'm going to go right back to that because there's no alternative. She's like, I'm disgusted by you. I can't even look at you. I can't even think of you as the same person. She's absolutely heartbroken. I'm sending her so much love. Shafina, nobody deserves to go through this. And I hope you know that all this does is take people out of your life that never deserve to be there in the first place. You seem like such a genuine, fun, loving, just like generous person, and I wish you nothing but the best 2026 that you can possibly have. And I hope that one day you're able to put this all behind you and just live the life that you're